We're staying with the U.S., but we're moving on to the presidential race, and I'm joined in studio by Dov Lipman, political analyst and former Knesset member of the Yesh Atid party. Good evening. And Charles Biblazer, deputy editor of the News Today.
I'm in pleasure.
Well, let's begin with Lindsay Graham, because he's pulling out of the race. Was this expected?
It was expected. What wasn't expected is how little traction his campaign actually garnered. When you look at Lindsey Graham, a lot of service in the U.S. Senate. He's a moderate Republican that has broad appeal. The most usual comparison that's given is John McCain, for example, who's basically his counterpart as the moderate Senate Republican. McCain won the nomination in 2008 before losing to Obama. So juxtaposed against that, it's very surprising that a guy like Graham could only gain about 1% in most of the polls.
This is part of the perplexing part of this whole process. You have a person with the credentials, and like Charles said, not extreme in any type of way. And I watched those pre-debates. He was always in the first debates, a person of substance, and giving real plans, real ideas, a real background, a real understanding of the complicated issues that are on the table, and yet was not able to go anywhere in comparison to people who don't have that kind of background. And this just really sets the scene for what has become the Republican primary contest. And it's sad to see someone of that substance step away. On the other hand, it's the beginning of a process where we'll see more and more doing so as the field becomes more clear.
Well, let's talk about someone who's not losing traction, apparently. Donald Trump, of course. This goes against every prediction that every analyst made that the scandals will hurt him. It's not the case, is it? And
it went a step further this week. Until now, we've been talking about how in the Republican field he's boosted to the top. Now, in a primetime debate, Hillary Clinton gives so much attention to him with her claim that he's responsible for ISIS recruiting videos and other things. And now all of a sudden, that means that she's concerned about him. She didn't have to go after Donald Trump unless Donald Trump is actually a real threat, not just to be the Republican nominee, but to be against her, to be the potential to beat her in a national election. That shocked me.
It actually surprised me as well, because of all the candidates in the Republican field, Donald Trump polls most poorly against Hillary Clinton. So to show not weakness, but to show that concern on a national level was very surprising in my estimation.
And what is next for Hillary? Can anything damage Hillary's campaign at this point? Charles made a point about this last night. I wonder what you think, Mr. Lipman.
I don't think so. I think that she's got it sewn up unless... I mean, again, I can't imagine what could possibly come out that either she won't find a way to get through or maybe President Clinton will come back in and again pitch in for her to help out. I think that she has it. And that's why seeing her go after Trump was so fascinating, because whatever she does at this point is going to be preparing for that national election. And they must have information, or they must feel they have to go after him. But I think that in terms of the Democratic nominee, she has it locked up, and now she's going to be going after the Republican possibilities.
And Charles, would you say that she won the last debate that happened? Because that's the first thing we want to know every time there's a debate, who the winner is.
I think, again, I mentioned it yesterday, it's hard to really talk in terms of winners and losers because she's simply the clear-cut frontrunner. And barring any unforeseen force majeure, really, she's going to, basically cruise to the nomination. But that being said, again, only Hillary, in my mind, can derail Hillary's campaign, and she's weathered very big storms to date, including the Benghazi scandal, the email scandals, and I just don't see anyone coming out of the woodwork. No, certainly not. And Bernie Sanders, in my opinion, is just simply not a viable candidate for the Democrats at the national level.
Well, Charles made a point about cruising to the nomination, and Ted Cruz is also a big surprise recently, is he not?
He's definitely a surprise. When this process began, I thought too Christian, even evangelical, too right. There's no possibility of getting traction. He has. And the truth is, it's hard. Watching Cruz and Rubio go at each other is a little bit difficult for me, only because whenever you see two young, up-and-coming people, you want to see them sort of rise above that, but they have no choice. They are basically competing for the possibility of once, after Lindsey Graham, other candidates back out, where will all those mandates go towards, and they're hoping to be the ones to pick those up, and that's what they are competing over. It's very difficult, though, to see them going after each other, who's right, who's wrong, voting records, immigration, and while that's happening, Trump just continues to do his spiel and his thing, and continues to rise in the polls.
Well, Charles, what's your take on the feud?
The Cruz-Rubio feud, I'm a little bit surprised actually that Rubio is going after Cruz the way he is. Only because I don't think that they're really going after the same voter base necessarily. Rubio is a much more moderate figure than Cruz, and I think he should be targeting Trump because I think a lot of Trump's voter base will be more likely to move to to Rubio once basically the field is whittled down and people will ultimately shift a little bit towards the center. That being said, I just wanted to make a quick point about Trump. He did hit a milestone of sorts recently in the polls. He's polling now at about 40%, and historically, candidates at this point in the campaign that go on to win the nomination must be polling between 40 and 60%. He is legitimate. We've known this for a while, but it just seems that he's reaching level after level after level.
Well, this debate with you on a weekly basis certainly clears up the roller coaster of the candidacy for us. And we have more on that very roller coaster in a wrap-up story. If anything, the U.S. presidential race has thus been captivating, full of controversy, from Donald Trump insulting just about everyone to Hillary Clinton's major scandals. Gentlemen, you are here with me to discuss this. Thank you very much. Now, with a supporting cast from characters ranging from Bernie Sanders on the far left to Ted Cruz on the far right, the campaign has had the feel of a Hollywood movie. ABC News recaps the wild ride.
We're getting in the groove here.
It's been an unconventional year in politics. Surprises, surges, and one bombshell, see you later. It's crowded out there on the Republican presidential trail. So many candidates, they're doubling up on debates, the main stage and what some call the kids' table. But the GOP race has been dominated by one man.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
Donald Trump launched his campaign with his signature bravado and immediately shook things up.
Our leaders are stupid.
Many thought the Trump balloon would burst, but he's not only held on to his commanding lead, he's increased it, despite many controversial statements about Mexican immigrants.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime.
And Muslims.
For a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
His comments have brought harsh criticism from Democrats and Republicans. His supporters say, finally a candidate who tells it like it is. Ben Carson had a brief jump in the polls before fading. Now Ted Cruz is riding a strong surge into the new year. On the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton holds wide leads nationally, but some voters are feeling the burn. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders giving the former Secretary of State a run for her money, some polls showing him ahead in the key early state of New Hampshire. The controversy over Clinton's private email server dogged her on the trail for some time. Early this fall, she tried to put it to bed.
That was a mistake. I'm sorry about that. I take responsibility.
That issue sparked perhaps the only real fireworks in the Democratic debates.
The American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails.
And while it feels like the presidential campaign has been going on forever, there's still several weeks to go before voters finally get to have their say.
Mr. Lippman, in the little time that we have, your highlight from this year in the campaign?
The fact that things that in past campaigns would make somebody lose immediately, both Trump with his statements, Hillary with her scandals, things that people never survive, and somehow they're still leading.
Charles?
I think mine kind of plays into what you're saying, is just how far the Democratic Party has shifted to the left and how far the Republican Party has shifted to the right.
We will keep following.